All right, guys, should be loading up live here for you. Just doing a quick Q&A session this morning. Kind of want to see how the Sync 60 challenge is going for a lot of you. I got some really awesome updates from some of you guys, some cool comments and a story even from one member today, Travis, who said that the only reason why he got up super early was to make sure you can knock that column down and say, yes, he achieved this week's goal. So that's what I did this for, guys, just to give you that little kick in the butt sometimes. We all need that. I'm certainly included in that group, okay? We all sometimes need a little bit of just some help to get ourselves motivated and pumped up. So I'm going to wait for just a few minutes and see how many of you guys actually show up here. I think the link should be good to go, but let me go ahead and just double check everything while I'm waiting for some of you to show up. I know it usually takes like a minute or two before this notification that I send out goes to all of you guys. So we'll see. Hopefully a couple of you guys do show up. And if you're watching this afterwards, just go ahead and skip probably forward a couple of minutes and then we'll get started with our questions. Nicholas, what's up, man? Glad you joined. Let me get to the other page because I think that would actually help me, guys. So we'll see. Hopefully a couple of you guys do show up here myself. Okay, got 7 of you guys here. Ray, Travis, what's going on? Rui, I think I got your name. Post any questions you guys have. Any comments, any stories, anything actually. I have about 30 minutes and then I have an appointment. But I figured I'd jump on here and kind of check in with you guys, see how the Sync 60 challenge is going, and hopefully you guys are working hard. I think we had 130 or so people, members, fill out our progress chart, which is really cool. And I know some of you guys had some issues filling that in. You know, some columns got messed up. I'm learning how to do this stuff a little bit better, guys. So I apologize if some of it was unclear in the beginning and there might have been some things that got deleted or rearranged. Basically, I try to protect as much of the sheet as I can, but I also have to allow a lot of it to be editable so that you guys can put in your data. Okay, so I know that in the beginning stuff was really messy and like there were columns that were just deleted and stuff. So I would go back and get to the saved version and then try to basically fix things. I think we've gotten to a point now where most of you guys that have put in your input, you've put in all your information and it's all there. And we shouldn't have a lot of moving parts. And I have alphabetically categorized all of it. So just so you know, if you filled it up and it was, row 10 before, it might be row 26 now, because I always every day go in there and see whoever put their new name at the bottom, and I sort of alphabetize the entire list. So if you joined at the end, your name might be alphabetized now at the very beginning or wherever your first letter is of your name, right? So it's just always in order that way, so we can find our own progress area really easily. So 22 Beats, what's up? Travis, Fire Away Productions, awesome. Zello and Dave, all right, guys. What's a good consideration fee to ask for 10-track album with vocals? Usually on the low end, if you're putting together tracks with vocals, I would say, there's no hard and fast rules, and even exclusive libraries don't have to give you consideration fees. I hope you guys are aware of that. Some of them do, and some of them pay really well. But I would hope that you would get, if they are going to offer consideration fees, at least $100 per track for tracks with vocals. So if you did 10 tracks on an album, so that's $1,000. Reason being is that usually 25 to 50 is kind of the low end of what you're going to get with instrumental, because you're just putting the instrumental pieces together. But when you add a vocalist, obviously that's more work. There's no more value added to that. But when you say good, that's probably the low end. You can definitely get 250 a track, 500 a track. I know some libraries do 1,000 a track. They're never going to advertise that to you, okay? And that's their prerogative to not have to advertise that out there. But if you are going to get a consideration fee, I would hope you'd be shooting for at least $100 per track to get you started with that. So, Ray, all right, Great Academy joined on my birthday. Awesome, man. Good present to yourself. I've been watching the videos. Awesome. Very cool, man. There's a lot of stuff to get to, so hopefully you'll be busy for quite a while there. Okay, Nielsen, that's a great question. Hold on, let me just double check something real quick. I have a lot of windows open. I want to make sure that this is not slowing down everything. Okay, cool. Oh, Nielsen. Okay, so I'm going to get to your question. So, how hard is it to search for music libraries online? So, doing a Google search, Yahoo search, just basically doing your own research online. How hard is it? Well, there's two answers. It's in one way very easy, but in another way it's very difficult. Okay, so if you want to research libraries for yourself, all you have to do, go to Google, type in TV film production library, production music library, production music catalog, TV film library. There's a lot of different terms that you can use, and different libraries sort of have different keywords and tags that they put on their website, so you'll find them differently that way. So finding a large list of companies is actually not that hard because it's just a Google search away. The next part is knowing which one you should partner with, right? That's the more tricky part. That's the part that takes a little bit more time and a little bit more effort. And absolutely, that's what SyncEdge is obviously there and why I designed it, okay? So if you were to do all of this by yourself, essentially what you'd have to do is go through each library that you discovered that you felt, okay, first of all, it's legitimate. Their recent placements show that they're actually getting work this year, or at least in the last 6 months. Some pretty big, placements are coming through their catalog and their company. They show that they haven't gone to sleep, which happens a lot. All right, there's a lot of libraries, and I've worked with a lot of them that were super active for 6 years, and then on the 7th year, crickets. Like they sold their company, or the owner just got lazy or not interested in the business anymore, and now he's doing something else. Certainly happened in my experience as well. So you got to be careful about that you're not jumping aboard a Titanic that's on its way down. Okay, that's not going to sort of traject you into the future in a great way. So need to know if they're going to be legitimate, if they're active, if they're currently doing that. Okay, then you need to see, does your music fit with them, right? Not only in terms of quality, are you on par with what their current catalog is offering, right? But are you serving their needs in any way, right? So if you do hip hop music and you go research a library and you think, okay, they have a lot of hip hop, so obviously they need hip hop, so let me get in there. Well, sure, maybe they have a lot of hip hop placements, but what if they already have 10 producers that are already cranking out a bunch of hip hop for them? Okay, you better be bringing music that is better than everything that they have in your catalog if you want to sort of jump into their inner. But then now look at your competition within that catalog. Now your tracks are competing with 10 other guys or girls and with all of their music, right? So what I say usually with the strategies that I employ essentially in SyncEdge is when I research these libraries and I'm looking at, okay, what would actually be the most competitive? It doesn't mean that only one style of music can get accepted by them, but I usually find that one style is going to give you the best chances of not only getting accepted, but also when you get accepted, get those placements, right? Getting accepted into a library is not the end game. You have not arrived at full-time income just because you got that acceptance letter and you've signed that contract with them. Full-time income comes when those placements come, right? So this is basically one layer above just the first initial research phase of like, is this a legitimate company? You also need to think about, if I get accepted into them and I'm gonna go crank out 6 months, a year, 2 years of my life, putting out a bunch of music, is that music just going to sit on their shelf? Is it going to get used by their clients? And is there a sort of a good track record based on what I'm seeing from their website and their current clients that my music is definitely going to be in demand? And also, am I jumping into a space that's really heavily saturated that I'd be competing with a lot of different producers in their catalog, in their library, right? So that's what I think about when I'm approaching a library and when I have in the past, okay? I didn't in the beginning. In the beginning, I was really just blind to all this stuff and I just sent my music out to libraries. Here, take me on, right? I didn't think about any of this kind of stuff. But this is where you as a producer need to put on a business hat and start thinking about how your tracks can be useful and licensable, right? That's the key word that I always talk about. It has to be licensable for their clients. And then for yourself to really be selfish, think about making sure you're not stacking up the odds of success against you by submitting to something that's really heavily saturated within their catalog. So try to find something they might not have tons of, or if they do have quite a bit of it, make sure that you're bringing something different, better, hybrid style. A lot of different ways you can do that, okay? So the research question, obviously, as I said, very quick, but also there's a lot of experience and wisdom that I try to bring with SyncEdge, and that's why I offered that program for you guys. If you're ready to submit, I do recommend only join if you haven't joined, if you're ready to start submitting to libraries. If you just need to practice producing licensable tracks and getting your production habits up to par so that you can be consistently productive in this industry, then it's not the right time for you to join SyncEdge. Only when you feel like, okay, I've got a good solid collection of tracks, I got an album, I'm producing tracks on a consistent basis, and I'm ready to take that next step to partner with a library, that's what that would be for. Ray, good question. So Trevor mentioned Netflix and streaming services paying upfront only. What are those fees like? I'm sure that they range. I have actually not personally dealt with those upfront fees, so maybe Trevor can obviously shed some more direct light on that. But I know that there's a range for that. Okay, it could be $500, it could be thousands of dollars, it could be a lot more for a bigger production with the with the budget and how big the show is. So obviously it depends on how your music is being used. Just like in your royalties, okay? If you're getting a 10-second background instrumental cue, they're probably not going to pay you $10,000 for that because it's not that important to the plot of the movie, and it's not that. But let's say they need a theme song to go along with the credits, or they have a feature where there's going to be an artist or a band playing a song and they want to put your song in there or something like that, sure, that probably has higher upfront fees for those kind of situations just because it's adding more value to the production. So it's the same considerations with royalties, but obviously that range depends on many different factors. And maybe Trevor at some point can kind of, we can do a chat about that to clue in on the exact numbers that he's obviously seen. Travis, once you have an album completed, what extra steps, if any, do you take with respect to the files? Example, bad question is, man, I'll be happy to help, but I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. Buzzing sound? Oh, sorry guys. It's my mic. I need to get a new mic. I've swapped out the XLR and it still does. It's a brand new XLR and I'm still getting that buzzing from time to time. Sorry about that. All right, keep them coming, guys. Any more questions? I got about awesome stuff. You guys got quiet on me. There's 27 watching. I know some of you guys got questions. Let me refresh this. Maybe I'm just not seeing the chat box, but I think I am. There we go. Okay. Travis, sorry to clarify. I'm wondering if there's anything you can do once you have the tracks balanced to make them more cohesive and sound like an album. I wonder if there's anything you can do once you have the tracks balanced. Oh, you're talking about like if you have a full album ready to go to make sure that each song sounds about the same. Well, obviously you should be doing that on your computer once you have your tracks balanced. And what I would do is probably not wait till the very end to start doing that. Once you finish track 1 and you feel, okay, this is great, I like where the sound is, start on track 2. Now, once you bounce track 2, probably put all your final mixes into one folder and literally just play them back to back in your system, with your speakers in the way that you know how to measure these things. And really sort of get a feel for, does that first track feel on par with the second? Because of the first one, yes, super loud, super present. The second one is 6 dB, 10 dB quieter and not as big. Then yes, you need to sort of go back to that mixing or mastering process for the second track. But if you're using templates and you kind of get into the idea of like, well, I'm composing all in the same genre, normalize just because of the fact that you're doing something very similar with same kinds of templates, sounds, plugins, that kind of thing, right? Lucas, what's the best way to get started trying to get something placed? I've been producing for a while. I'm just diligent about learning about sync. Okay. So the first step, and this is why Sync Academy is here, is to make sure that your tracks are licensable. Okay, so if you're new to producing, or maybe you're just new to producing for the TV film world, before you start thinking about, I need to get my tracks placed, I need to get into a library, you got to make sure that you bring the goods first. You got to make sure that your music is ready to go. If you're not producing licensable music, it doesn't matter how many libraries you send your music to. You might get accepted to 1 or 2 by, sheer luck or something, but if you're not doing something methodically and you're thinking about why you're producing the music the way you're producing it, and you consistently can start to do that, then you're going to be spending a lot of time submitting music that'll probably, even if it does get accepted, doesn't get placements, okay? So step 1 is really get into the academies here in Sync Academy, and then don't get lost in them where you're kind of getting stuck on just watching a bunch of tutorials, but once you learn something, go into your studio and try it, right? And execute, because you're going to find that the way that you want to produce is going to be different than how I or any other Sync Academy pros do it exactly, right? You can certainly use our methods to get you started, but you'll find that there's something that works for you that maybe we didn't cover because it's just you. You have your own creative thoughts, your own creative processes, and your own plugins, obviously, and your own sounds and your own just musical ideas. So start working, start producing tracks. That's basically the best thing I would say first. And again, as I said before, if you feel like, okay, tracks are licensable, on par, I'm feeling like I'm getting it now, if you feel that confidence, then you start thinking about partnering with music libraries. And we talked about that earlier in this video. So if you missed that, you just scroll back once we're done and you can check out my thoughts on finding libraries. Nielsen, talk about balancing original music while also building a catalog for sync music. It's a good question, and I can't really give you any sort of expert advice on that, only because if I do original music, my own music, I just don't really ever release it. It's more just for me. I mean, it might sound crazy, but I really do sometimes just produce music that I don't put anywhere. I might send it to some friends or family or something like that, but I don't put it on YouTube. I don't put it online. It's not on SoundCloud. It's just for me. Like, I just love sometimes creating music that expresses what I'm feeling at the time, right? It's just a good way to sort of express myself creatively. So I couldn't tell you in terms of, okay, well, I'm building my artist career over here and then I'm doing sync licensing over here. I'm not personally doing that, so I can't tell you about that balance. But again, I would say 10, 11 years ago, when I had a band, well, I was basically in only the artist world, and then I started to dip my toe into the licensing business. But quickly, I was getting contracts and checks and placements from licensing, and my artist career wasn't blossoming. I wasn't getting anything. Nothing was happening. I certainly wasn't making any money. I was spending a lot of money on it. So for me, the path of least resistance clearly showed itself to me, and that's why I just basically 100% went in on sync licensing. So you need to make that calculation for your career. Which side of your career is actually blossoming? Okay, your original music, are you growing? Is your fan base growing? You're making sales, you're touring, right? You're climbing charts, you're winning things, whatever it is. You feel like there's something happening here. If your licensing business is kind of dwindling and kind of not really doing much, then you might want to go for your artist side of things. That might be your path of least resistance. But from what I've seen and from the stories I've heard, usually it's the other way around. It's usually spinning your wheels, trying to get something done in the artist world, not getting those results, and then realizing, wow, it's a much simpler, more efficient process over here with licensing. And that's why a lot of them, they might start off 90-10, then it's 80-20, then it's 60-40, and then eventually, before you know it, they're 100% going into sync licensing. It's just one of those gradual things you'll start to see if you get accepted and start getting those contracts and placements, right? All right, C-Prove, welcome. All right, guys, got about 10 more minutes. Put any questions you got in there. Am I familiar with Abraham Hicks? No, I'm not. I'll look him up right now, though. Speaker and author. Wait. It's showing me somebody else. Hold on. Don't know much about this. So I've heard of Law of Attraction, but I don't know who this person is. So, All right. All right, Zello, I want to put up 2 albums at the end of the 60-day challenge on my website. Should I just stick to one type of album, or should I mix up and do two types of albums? It depends. I mean, if you want to... I don't know exactly what your strategy is. If your strategy is maybe to go with 2 different libraries, to say, here's one album for you, here's one album for you, and you kind of have some library in mind that you're thinking of, that might make sense. But if you're trying to actually just get accepted into one library first, like your first one, probably want to keep them somewhat similar. They can have their own different themes. So again, coming to a library and saying, I do this, I do that, trying to be the master of like many different genres is usually not the best way to get your foot into the door. It's better to have a much more targeted, here's my EDM album, right? Here's my EDM sports orchestral hybrid album. And this is going to be great for you because I've noticed that you guys serve this kind of stuff, and I noticed that you don't have a lot of it, or I've noticed what you guys have in your catalog, that my stuff is actually going to be on par or better than what you guys currently have. So, that's kind of a better targeted approach to these libraries. So again, it kind of depends on what your ultimate strategy is in the end there. Dave, finishing 2 songs sometimes. I can slow it up trying to figure out a DAW issue. That can be time consuming. Yeah, and if you're in the beginning process of learning your DAW or just going through those tech issues, I totally relate to that. I hate tech issues. I'm not a technical guy. I love just the creative process of it. So the more, that might be your 60-day challenge, Dave. Maybe you need to go back to the point of just understanding your DAW more completely so that you can get around these issues much quicker. You can solve them all. And so at the end of 60 days, those issues can be in the past. And then you could just now focus on creating music. So, maybe you're ahead of yourself by thinking you're going to create a bunch of music if you still have DAW issues, tech issues, right? It could be a RAM issue. I don't know what's going on with your DAW stuff that you're dealing with, but that could be your 60-day challenge, right? It's not a goal that's too small. To get your technical stuff sorted out is crucial, right? These are the basics. This is what Sync 60 is all about. If you need to go to the basics, go to the basics. Wherever you are, that's what your goal should be. Have you heard of any colleagues getting jobs such as scoring for TV or other industries through licensing? Oh, absolutely. It's very, very common that if you create these relationships, I've done a couple of those gigs myself where I'm scoring for indie, smaller films. I haven't been picked up to score any major Hollywood movies or anything like that. But certainly, web series I've scored. I've done Kirk, I'm also a drummer. Have you seen much need for drumlet or percussive lift tracks in the industry? Absolutely, Kirk. So tension music is pretty much mostly about the percussion. It's mostly about that driving sort of undercurrent to the track. I remember I did Nike. It was Nike. They were doing a Nadal promo for an online thing, and they literally told me just percussion, only big, epic, percussive, orchestral percussion. And so I did this massive, I don't know, it was like sorry, I got something in my eye here. It was like a 10 track or maybe even 15 track percussive piece that was just nothing but just going crazy, super fast, super high BPM. And that's all I wanted for 20 seconds or 30 seconds, whatever it was. So I basically created, I think, 3 or 4 different versions using all the same template, all the same stuff. I just created different sort of, percussive textures and then sent them their choices and they chose one of them. And then I got paid. I can't remember how much I got paid for. There was an online, I think I got $1,500 for that. It was like an only online. So it wasn't on TV. A TV campaign would have been paid a lot more than that, but it was a purely online social media campaign that they put together when Nadal had won. I don't really follow tennis, but he had won, some big championship. So. Tiago, I've come across an opportunity where I composed 6 one-minute corporate tracks but didn't get used. How do you manage tracks that end up not being used, although I want to focus on rock metal genre? So you compose music that didn't get used. Do you mean you send it to a library and it's been sitting on their catalog, their shelf and not getting used? Well, if it was an exclusively licensed thing, look at your contract. You might be able to take them out if they haven't been used after 2 or 3 years. A lot of libraries will work with you on that, or you can ask them for their policy on that. If it was non-exclusive, then go take those and find another home for them. There's another place you could probably find for them. So, all right, John, what's up? While I'm in this for long haul, how many total tracks did you have out with libraries before you saw the first royalties from a PRO? It's a good question. I remember I was going at about, I think it was about 1 album every month and a half to 2 months. I think that's the pace that I was at in the very beginning. So, and I didn't get paid my first royalty check for, I think it was 1.5 years to 2 years. So I don't know, you do the math on that. I probably had, I had 8 to 10 albums, I think, out there. But that doesn't mean that it'll take you 8 to 10 albums. The way that you should think about this is I started getting placements from that first album 1.5 years to 2 years later, okay? Committing to this business, you really got to commit to it, because if you can't afford to wait 2 years to start seeing those royalties, like I started seeing all this money come in. It's the most common story I've heard in this business. So that's why it does take some sort of, those producers that make it through that moment of uncertainty and those times of uncertainty will see the sort of kind of full-time income that I've been able to see and other producers that are in this industry, okay? But trust me, every time I got those royalty checks, I was like, wow, that's all I got? That's all I got? I got a lot of those, and there were so many times and so many, I could see the exit door. I was like, oh, I could just walk out of this right now. What am I doing, right? It's very tempting many, many times, and I know you guys have probably all felt that way, probably already in this industry, and that's why you guys probably don't know anybody who does this full-time in your personal life, because it's really difficult to do. It's a very difficult business to succeed in, but it's possible. That's what I want you guys to take away from this. It's definitely doable if you can stick with it long enough. So sorry, I can't really give you a complete answer on that, but I do know that, if you're consistently producing at a quick pace, if you can get to 2 to 3 tracks a week, that's awesome. That's rock star levels. Okay. So I would shoot for that. and then have that faith that you will see the fruits of your labor, but it takes time. Travis, have I played around with the new serum? No, I don't think I have actually yet. So I have to get around to doing that. I haven't been producing a lot of tracks lately that require serum, so I just haven't really opened it up lately. But when I do, I'll go look at the update and see what's going on with that. Following up, can auxiliary percussion be used? Absolutely, totally. Almost any type of percussion can be used in this industry, totally. Alex, I recently saw your video about scams. Have you found or heard of any others? And what? No, I mean, the reason why I put that video out, and Alex, you're talking about the video where I talk about watch out for these kind of loops and sample sites that, they put up an e-commerce site and then they're just selling all this stuff. And it's like, where did this come from? And you're not even telling me if I can use this commercially in TV film. I brought that up because I actually had a student that emailed me that and said, hey, Jesse, I just bought some stuff from this company. I asked them, because he had seen my other video about making sure you get that commercial clearance in the end user license agreement. And he said, can you take a look at this? Does this look interesting to you? And I was like, it definitely looks interesting, but not for good reasons. It looks very wishy-washy. I'm not going to say for sure it's a scam because I don't know, but there's no terms on the website. I don't know where they're getting this stuff from. So that's why I say usually just stick with the bigger companies that have a track record that have been around for a long time. So I can't tell you right now. I'm sure there are hundreds of websites and blogs and places out there and YouTube channels where they're like, oh, take my free samples, or here, pay me $9.99. I'll give you all these drums. How do you not know that they just took those from another website, zipped it up in their own folder, put new artwork on it, and they're selling it unauthorized? That's certainly possible. Almost probable for a lot of these people that are doing that, okay? So I just say, if you don't know who it is, they don't have a reputable name brand, they haven't been in business for a long time, just put your scrutiny glasses on and make sure that you really do your due diligence on who they are and what they're doing. And if you have any questions and you're not getting that certainty of like, yes, I'm good, I'm protected, don't buy from them, right? Find places that you can actually be more confident that you can actually do that. I have my tracks in a couple of libraries that I have distributed over the years, and the library owner will hit me up and say, Jesse, one of our clients wants to use your track for a commercial campaign, and they're willing to pay $2,000 to the catalog and say, we would like to sync this for this opportunity. And the library, it's really totally up to library though. So you don't get to decide that. If you've signed an agreement where the library is representing your music to their clients, you don't get to say, well, don't let them use my track unless they pay me $2,000 in sync fees. That's the library's job. They have their own business model for how they do that. Some libraries don't charge sync fees at all because they want to be competitive, hyper competitive, to say, use our music for free up front. Just come and take it, right? We want to collect on the back end with our publishing, and then our writers will take their writer share. So I've definitely worked and do work with companies right now who do that, have that platform or have that business model. It's totally their prerogative. They can decide to do that if they want to. You got to realize, or offered for your opportunities, how much of those sync fees are you entitled to, right? Usually it could be a 50-50 split. It could be 75-25. I've seen them all over the place. But if they do offer those sync fees, then that's great. That could be potentially more income for you. But it's certainly rare. I think I would agree with you. It is rare. What's more common is your royalties. That's what you're going to be getting every single quarter. And your upfront sort of sync custom opportunities, those are, to me, they're kind of like the icing on the cake. They're something that I love. They do boost my income quite a bit when they come in, but they're not what I'm relying on. What I'm relying on are those royalties. That's what gets me through my month to month and my quarterly income in this business. So, all right, guys, I'm definitely over. So let me just go ahead and wrap up the last questions we have here. Okay, good question, Tiago. These Q&As are not regular here in Sync Academy. In Sync Edge, I do them monthly, and you can religiously count on that. I do those monthly. I'm not offering these as a sort of like guaranteed every single month I'm going to do these, but once in a while, especially with Sync 60, I really want to check in with you guys and see if you guys have any questions and kind of give you one more boost of motivation through your process here. So I'll probably do them more often here during Sync 60, but I can't always guarantee that I'm always going to go live in Sync Academy, but I will. I mean, you guys will see me obviously pop on here. But in Sync Edge, that's where I can guarantee you what you are signing up for with Sync Edge is a monthly live Q&A. And I usually do it in the middle of the month on a Saturday morning. Some of you guys are Sync Edge members and you go to those all the time. I always have my religious ones that show up every single week, and I love that. But yeah, in Sync Academy, it's usually sporadically, but I think I will do probably a lot more in the next couple of months for sure. Mark, Pond5 and Audio Jungle, those are royalty free, and I've done a couple of videos on my YouTube channel about royalty free libraries, so go ahead and check out those if you haven't. Just go to my YouTube channel and type in royalty free. You'll see what I think about those. So I'm not completely negative on them, but you just got to realize what you're doing with them. They can be something you can add to your strategy, but it's not something that I would recommend you go 100% full in on, because even the producers that I know, even former syndicate members that I've had who've gone full in on that, don't see tons and tons of income that way. You can make some money probably in the short run, a little bit of money in the short run, but I'm about long-term passive income. I like doing work one day and getting paid for 6 years off of that one track that I produce. And that's what I've seen in this side of the business for TV film libraries, not necessarily the online royalty-free, kind of a deal. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for popping in. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and get back to work. Monday, I'll be releasing week 2's video for the Sync 60 challenge here in the platform. I mean, we're on YouTube here, but in the platform, Sync Academy platform, you'll see underneath week 1, the second video, and really good stuff is going to be coming. That's all about time management. So you guys don't want to miss out on that one. So we'll see you guys just in a couple days here with that video.